the gimmick. Great. That already means that I have to edit. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 68 of Podfluxxx. And Ricky, we are back in our space. We should have no issues with the internet tonight. Our audio should not sound like echo and vibrations. And where you stay out of this, I will execute you. One moment, please. I'm going to leave this in. All right? Here's your phone. Get in your bed. Sit down and shut up. And here we are. Oh, and there's something popping up on my screen here. This is fantastic. And now I am gone. How's it going, Rick?
Not as full as it is there.
Oh, boy. So, kids back to school tomorrow. How about down in Texas?
He's been at school. He started school last week.
Really?
Or the 19th. The 19th he started.
They do it right down there, huh?
Yeah, they get out a little earlier too, so.
Right. That way they probably enjoy some of the summer season before it's, stay in your house for a month and don't melt to death.
Scary heat, yeah.
All right. Well, we're jumping back in, Rick, to one of our favorite topics. I think we'll do another week of VPW before we jump back into Lucha Underground after next week, because we are building to something, and what we are building is to me and you inside of a steel cage. So what we finished last week, we finished on our steel cage survival war game style match. And for the sake of our research, I have switched off of Wikipedia and I've gone directly to the horse's mouth of VictoryProWrestling.com, and I'm in the results there because it's giving me a little bit more of an insight onto what is actually going on. So now I've got a little bit of an understanding of how Conflux first happened. And then I went back and I found something really funny. We were talking about Joe last week and how Joe never really tried to do anything that he probably shouldn't have done. And then I came across a result that had me just ringside with Kevin and on a cane, and the whole thing came back to me.
Okay.
Right? The week before the show, in practice, Joe splashed me in the corner and told me to drop to my ass and stay. And so I dropped to my ass and I stayed. And here come Joe attempting to do a cannonball, right? But he landed on my foot.
Yeah.
How when you're sitting down, how your toes are up in the air?
Of course, yes.
Right. So he landed on my foot, and without me moving my leg, my toes touched the mat. So he flattened my foot out. I sprained my ankle, and I couldn't work that show. But I remembered specifically we were doing something where I was going to be ringside with Kev for that match, and then Joe was like, and then I'll feed to you, and you hit me in the head with the cane. And I had like a real, like, aluminum doctor's cane. And I was like, Joe, I don't feel comfortable. I'm not going to hit you in the head. And he was like, all right, so I'll feed you my back. So we get out there. Here comes the spot. And this son of a bitch, like, Kev bounces him off the post or whatever it was. And he turns around and gives me one of these and feeds me his head. And I was like, this motherfucker just hung me out to dry because he knew I didn't want to hit him in the head. And now I have no choice but to blast him over the top of the head with this metal crutch or cane or whatever it was as hard as I possibly can. And he made me do that to him. So that was my Joe story. But coming off of the steel cage survival match, I sorted out on YouTube after our show last week, and I had to watch it. And that cage match was way better than it deserved to be or had any right to be. Big shits who have never been inside of one before, trying to not step over each other. I forgot that we did it, that we needed all 8 guys to be in the ring before elimination started.
Right.
So, the 8 minus Kevin, the 7 of us, and the referee. I'm surprised we weren't just stepping over each other's dicks. But do you know what happened the very next month?
No.
On February 19th, 2011, we had the King of New York tournament. All right? In the first round, K-Funk defeats J Delta. And do you happen to remember what you did on this evening?
No.
Probably because it probably wasn't any good. You and I had our first one-on-one encounter in the 2011 King of New York. I was not in the tournament. I was never in a King of New York tournament until Kai was a babyface, and he went out of his way to moonsault me on my head and make sure I never remembered being in the tournament. But yeah, you and I had our first singles match for your New York State title. It should be noted that Kevin and Eric went on to be in the finals, and you guys screwed Kevin again in a rematch from the year before's finals, and Eric won the King of New York tournament. Do you remember anything from our first encounter?
No, I don't.
I don't either, which tells me that it was either A, not memorable at all, B, very paint by numbers with me just shutting up and listening to everything that you had to say and just hoping to be in the right place at the right time. Because I have a feeling that at that point in time, as far as beginning in the ring with you the first time, I can tell you, just knowing me, that my mindset there was, don't piss him off. So I'm sure I went out of my way to accommodate you on that one. But then the next month, we were back in one of the buildings. I'm going to assume, since it was an anniversary show, that it was more than likely Center Reach, right? So, yeah. Well, actually, if the cage in January was in Deer Park, and then February was the King of New York in Center Reach, then March, this was probably in Deer Park, and this might have been Deer Park's first crack at an anniversary show. So what we did here was we played the hits. We went Funky Fresh Boys versus Eclipse, VSK versus Ricky Reyes, and we went EJ Risk versus Javier. So basically, this card was booked to the strength of and Joseph Von Schmidt versus Razzle Dazzle. You have any memories of Joseph Von Schmidt and Razzle Dazzle's rivalry here?
Rivalry? No. For some reason that I don't recall that at all, but I'm sure everybody was excited for that one. Oh Lord.
Oh boy. So we're like the next month was the night of charities, and was this the one? I think it was. Yes. You remember this show in the Robert Frost Middle School?
On a Friday, right?
I believe this was on a Friday.
If so, this is the Horseman weekend?
I believe this is the Horseman weekend.
Because the next night was Deer Park, right?
Let me see. No, this is not the Horseman weekend.
Oh.
The Horseman weekend, that was...
This was later, right? It was later.
Central Islip High School. That was my debut, and we had Alex Anthony with us.
Okay.
I can't wait till we get to the Horseman weekend. But this was the Robert Frost Middle School.
Okay.
It was you and EJ, who I believe... No, you guys were just the King of New York and the New York State champion. It was against me and Kev, right? And Kev challenged you to a New York State match, a New York State title match for like the next show or whatever. And this is where we were kind of segueing into what it seemed like it was going to look like to start a program with you and Kevin. But eventually a pivot was made. But this was the night that me and Kevin, we debuted the new Funky Fresh Boys t-shirt here. And we had this match, and then it was intermission, and we went right to the merch table. And you and Eric got us over so hot during this tag match that we got bombarded at the merch table, and all of the shirts were gone at the end of the night. I don't know how many were bought and how many were stolen because they were just hand over fist. We couldn't keep track of them. But yeah, this is me and Kev. We were moving merch back in those days.
Yeah.
Somebody had to.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a really good match that night. I remember it specifically. I also remember us taking a bunch of new stupid promo pics in the back and completely destroying kayfabe with me, Eric, Kevin, Vinny taking pictures together. But so the next month, I hate having to go month by month, but I'm trying to remember what we were doing. All right. The next month was you beat Kev, okay, and this is May of 2011. Now, we're heading into the Gold Rush Rumble here in July. Now, you worked a match with Red on the undercard of the Gold Rush Rumble here, okay, and then after the match, I came out to confront you and challenge you. But do you remember what happened here in this build-up to me and you?
You eventually teamed with Red, right? And then we did a tag match.
Right, but that didn't happen until like October. Do you happen to remember why?
No, I don't remember why.
I cut my fucking thumb off.
At work, right.
At work.
I remember that.
To this program.
Yes, I remember that now that you say it.
So that kind of stalled us out here.
Yes. Because we had one with a broken ankle and then one with a missing thumb. I remember that.
And it kind of stalled the run of me and you.
Yes. Right.
And turned into a little run of you and Red.
Yes.
While I was, getting sewn back together.
I remember, yeah.
I remember at the time, Johnny Five did not want to go with the Me and You program.
Right.
I remember him specifically wanting to go with you and Kev, but you and Johnny Five having a come to Jesus meeting where you told him that Tibbs didn't need it,
right,
and that I did.
Yes.
So I would like for you, obviously I understood it, and I appreciated it. I always thought it was to keep me from getting lost in the shuffle once things were starting to head in different directions, because now we're starting to head into Kevin and Vinny as a tag team. Remember?
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys, as far as Conflux goes, you guys can work with anybody and make, you know, do what you guys needed to do as heels to get your heat, keep your heat.
Right.
But Kevin and Vinny were about to shoot off into a program together, and I feel like if you wouldn't have done for me what you did for me here, it would have been very plausible for me to get lost in the shuffle and just end up just another dude on the card. So do you remember what you're thinking of why I needed it more than Kevin did, and how Johnny Five was receptive to that conversation?
Yes. This was a big part of, I guess, why Johnny Five stopped coming around after a while, was because I had to, at some point, had to like nicely put my foot down with a lot of things, right? Because otherwise he was just going to keep doing what he was doing. And although we were getting our hands involved in what was going on, we just still didn't have full control yet. So the problem with running with Kevin was he was grasping it, and it was getting easier for him to get himself over, as opposed to have a heel get him over, right? So, like you said, with having the heat that we did, I was looking to insert that heat to people that needed it, that needed to get that rub from beating us. And I also recall around this time thinking, like, every time you and I had conversations about things, that you made a lot of sense. And I was like, yeah, he gets it from a like booking strategy, like why we're doing what we're doing here, mentality. So I always remembered that with Johnny Five, he kept, I don't know, he just kept shooting everything down. It was a constant, I don't know. He would never say no. He just wanted to like pitch other ideas for me and stuff. And I kept thinking like, no, because I was in your guys' position, right? Like Rocky was the popular one. And I remember when we were in the New Japan dojo and we were starting up New Japan USA, my trainer, Kevin Quinn, he had told me, well, Rocky's over, but Ricky needs to get over. So that's when they brought Joe in when he was ROH World Champion. And I have a clean pin on Joe because that was going to get me over, And I always remember like to try to pay that forward, that mindset of trying to help get the other guy over, because he's just as good. It's just we don't know about it yet, so you needed something to let people know, type thing. So I always had that mentality of like, make the losses meaningful and the rivals like do something, right? Because there's always that classic, I don't know, I guess like the old saying of, and then what, so if I feuded with you and then eventually dropped the belt to you, and then what, you're the champion and now you're over me more, something that Kevin didn't do, which was beat me, right? So that was the mindset behind it. I just knew that, like, also for the guys that trained, like I saw what you guys were going through, and Johnny Five didn't, right? Like that's not really what a booker does, is go to practice. Although he should, because that's what coaches do, right? All the coaches are at practice, so they know who's putting the work in. And it seemed like, I was the only voice for that, so I was gonna gonna stand up for it. And it was one of those things that if we didn't build opponents for Conflux, then we would have 3 people to work with, and that was it, and it wasn't going to be enough, so that was a lot of the conversation was no, Kevin, we need to do this with Kevin, because Tibbs was getting over, and I remember the King of New York, where that was where he came off his foot injury, and I was in the back, and that's when he like sat at the table with me, and he was like, I didn't do anything, and I got over it. And he kind of looked at me and was like, I get it now. And I just remember telling him, good, now get the fuck away from me. And because I was trying to go over my match, and he just like got up and like walked away. And it was like another I told you so type of moment. But as all you guys were slowly getting it, just again, like that was my whole point, was I needed to get in there with all of you guys one by one, and it wasn't going to be 2 or 3 matches and then go for everybody, right? It needed to be something. I mean, your injury backed it up a little bit, yeah, and it gave us more mic time, it gave us more angles, like prolonging it without anyone really knowing, kind of like a Austin's hurt type of thing, and he's constantly getting over. It kind of taught us all how to do that, so yeah, I mean, that was one of my more memorable conversations with Johnny Five, was trying to get him, like, why do I have to pitch this so fucking hard, right? like I mean, I see these guys, what they do every week, like, just, and you can't deny the crowd responses. Like, that's what drew me to you guys, and the change in the first place was, I was like, how are you not putting the guys with the heat with the guys with the hottest reactions? I couldn't understand that. You got guys that come out, work the crowd, an explosion when they come out, and then you had a bunch of nobodies that people didn't really know yet, right? Like, even Amazing Red didn't get big pops, until he started like kind of Marty Jannetty cheesing it up out there. Then all of a sudden, when he came through the crowd, people were like, oh, yay, this guy again. Like, they don't know who Amazing Red is because they're just regular people.
I remember having so many conversations with Johnny Five, and I couldn't tell if it was a situation of the guy either didn't like me, or like didn't like me personally, or just didn't like what I did. Because every time I tried to talk to him about anything, it was like it fell on deaf ears. But any one of those Johnny Rods guys could walk through the door and been like, I'm going to come out to the ring with a beach ball and pile drive it and pin it. And he would have been like, I'll give you 20 minutes, and it was like, it just seemed like I couldn't get anything done with him, or anything by him, or anything I tried to talk to him about. It was like he had no faith in at all whatsoever.
I mean, he didn't get it either. I think he was booking for himself. I think he wanted that whole, I booked that moment, and so the easy thing would have been to have me and Tibbs go out there and do, an Iron Man match, or a 2 out of 3 falls match, or something, or a cage match, while we were both, hot. But what's the point in that when you can, do what we did, and build somebody to get hot, and and then move on from that, yeah, having a quote unquote booker, you got to know their business mindset and what it is. I mean, there's indie guys, and when I moved here to Texas, it was always, it seemed like a lot of the guys were trying to book just to outshow or outbook the promotion across the street, or the other Texas territories here. It was always like, you always hear somebody in the back like, yeah, so and so. There's this in Laredo, there's 2 groups. There was LWA, and then there was this place called Full Blown, and one would bring in, you know, a big Mexican star. So the next month they had to bring in a big Mexican star, you know, and then it was like, you know, they were just doing that, and they were literally like down the block from each other, you know, and trying to split their audience. It just,
Constant pissing match.
yeah, and you know, it just didn't make sense. Instead of, like, when I would talk to the guy from LWA, I was like, well, why don't you just do something like this and build, and then, you know, in 3-4 months, you know, you can have your big show at the school, or, you know, whatever. And they're like, yeah, it's a great idea, to my face, and then go do whatever they're going to do the next day anyway. So after a while, you just like, all right, well, I can only do so much, right? Like, I wasn't invested in them, and they weren't invested in me, so they just needed me there on that show. So whatever.
Yeah, like, I mean, I like to, like, I watch the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next month I watch the whole show. And as I watch guys, like, certain things pop in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll approach radio, and then I'll approach the talent.
Mm-hmm.
And then if somebody's got an idea, it's like, oh, this is good. Okay, you've got a good idea. You've got a good idea that you've mapped out for a few months. Like, why not listen? I don't understand the mindset of the person who's not willing to listen to somebody else's ideas.
Well, see, that's the thing, is when you have bookers that are just the bookers, that have never done it, right? Like, that was my problem with Gabe, like, in ROH. You know, there wasn't a person in that locker room that didn't want to work with me, you know, but Gabe only saw me as part of a group. You know, I was just the you know, the other guy, you know, I was the mean one in the group, or whatever it was, you know. It was, you know, he saw his stars as his stars, and that's what the direction he was going to go in, you know. And like, that ultimately is what led to me leaving Ring of Honor the first time, was because, you know, like, Rocky had moved to Mexico, so they were only bringing him in like once a year, if that. Um, you know, Joe and Punk were gone. You know, Homicide, that's when he had finally signed with TNA, like, full time, you know, and then it was just kind of me, you know, and then I kept asking, like, what's next? What's next for me? You know, and he's like, well, I don't really see you with, and I thought, oh, well, let me work with Roddy, and, you know, let me work something where I can work, like, with Alex Shelley, like, maybe we do like a series of matches where I actually pin him a couple times with, like, wrestling moves, you know, and then it turns into, like, the whole pure wrestling thing. Or, you know, I had pitched ideas, you know, and ideas that I knew these guys that we had talked about, or, you know, that everyone thought, oh, that would be fun, you know, and nothing, you know. And then I was like, all right, you know, like, and then when Delirious took over booking, you know, or first was Adam Pierce, you know, he called me when I was, you know, right before I moved to Mexico or Puerto Rico, and he had booked me on like 3 events early that year. But, you know, Carino had booked me in Puerto Rico, so I was like, hey, I told Adam, I was like, I'm going to Puerto Rico. I should be back soon, though, in a few months. And, you know, and he was like really upset about it, because he had big plans for me, you know. You know, but too little too late at that point, you know, like, to go back to Ring of Honor like just a couple years later would have been like, you know. And then by the time I did come back, Hunter had taken over completely. So you know, and then they couldn't figure out what to do with me, and I wasn't as invested then as I was previously, you know, because my mindset had changed in a big way from wrestling in Puerto Rico. I just thought, well, I can go everywhere and do whatever I want now, instead of being part of a bigger promotion and I only have to do what they want me to do, you know.
Right.
And that's kind of what drew me away from Ring of Honor eventually, to where I just cut it off completely and didn't want to do anything with them.
Well, what we did here was whatever we wanted. So the next month, Kevin Vinny beat Eclipse for the tag titles. And then you have a match with Amazing Red where you guys get into some shenanigans. after the match, and then I hit the ring to announce that I'd be cleared for October and that I wanted a title match. So in October, it is me and you, and I believe this is the one in Center Reach. And this is one of my favorite matches with you because this is the one with the infamous Vader comeback and the hey, we're gonna try a superplex. So, what do you remember from this match?
This was like the big clubbing forearms to my brain
Where
skull.
you wanted me to club you in the head, in your words, as hard as you can from corner to corner.
Right. I remember. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
How can I? Yeah. I just remember that stuff because I wanted, my mindset was to bring out like a vicious side of you, I guess was what I was envisioning. Like I wanted some sort of like you snapped and then there's nothing but rage coming out. Like I thought that was going to be the best style fight for us to eventually get to. That's really all I remember from that. Because I remember the Vader. Because I thought I remember telling you like if you just swing big and upwards, I could take them and kind of move with them like side to side. I was envisioning Brett versus Vader in my head, right?
Yeah.
Like Brett, the way he would sell like in the corner, like he'd get rocked, boom, and and then it was like Vader would just like pick him up by the face, and like do it again. Like that's what I was like envisioning.
I remember while throwing them, my wrists like bouncing off the side of your head. And in my mind, I'm like, "Oh my god, I feel so bad." But you're verbally telling me, "Keep coming, keep coming."
Yeah.
Now, for people who are listening to this and haven't had the fortune to work a match with you, you do a lot of coaching while we're working. And I think it's something that you kind of ingrained into us because I realize that we do like, and the coaching isn't like, so much like wrestling stuff. It'll be like, we'll be down, we'll hit something, we'll be coming out of a pin, and you'll be like, get the fucking people, and, you're kind of reminding us not to get lost in the sauce of what we're doing and to bring the people along with us. And that's the to bring the emotion and the mindset. Cause once you involve them, even if like, I tell a lot of guys, like if you pick on one person, you pick one person out of the crowd and you make that person feel some type of way, the person next to him is going to start to feel some type of way, and so on and so forth. And the next thing you know, you've got everybody. So this match, like I remember specifically in this match, like doing certain things and you being like, get the people or sell up, show them your face, show them your face. There was a lot of show them your face because I had an issue with selling with my head down. Yes. And it was always show them your face, show them your face. So I remember also when you were like, we're going to try a superplex tonight, and we talked about it earlier in the night. So we get up in the corner and we go, and I hit and I bounced like 2 foot up after I hit, and then I came flat again. And I remember I kind of tried to like pop up immediately and show everybody that it sucked, and then I laid back down. You were like, that was awesome. And then we ended up doing it in every match we did with each other almost ever going forward. And yeah, I remember throwing those Vader forearms at you and feeling so bad while I was doing it. And then there was another really cool spot that I remember that I did something, and I covered you, and I came up and like I was arguing with the referee, and I was on like a knee, and you kind of like came to your feet, and while I'm arguing with the referee, you just loaded up one of those roundhouse kicks, and I just oh man, that was a lot of fun. But that match ended with Red making some type of save,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and Eric run in, and then Red making save, and us. Do you know what was at the end of this match? I was trying to make the challenge from the top of the entranceway, and you and Eric got a couple of the locals all wound up. Please tell me you remember this.
When that old lady tried to jump the rail, was that this one?
Yes, and I'm trying to cut the promo, and you guys are fucking with the old lady and her kid.
Yeah, I remember Eric freaking out, going, "I can't believe this is happening. This is really happening." And I said, "Hold me back from that bitch. Hold me back."
Dude, you have no idea how frustrated that was, because I was trying to cut this promo and get this challenge out, and not one person in the building was paying attention to me or gave a damn about a thing I had to say, because they were all wondering if this lady and her special needs child were going to figure. Remember, they couldn't figure out how to get over the barricade.
They couldn't get over the rail. Yeah.
They
didn't know to go under or over. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just sitting there trying to cut this promo. It ain't happening. I don't want to just be like with the Amazing Red and like have his name not mean anything.
Right. Yeah.
Get anybody's attention.
Mm-hmm.
This was a disaster. So the next month we did the tag match.
Right.
Me and Red versus you and Eric. Do you remember anything from it?
Not really. Did you beat me in this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got a clean pin on you in this one, just like you were talking about a few minutes ago with Joe.
Yes.
And then I made the challenge. Right. So what had happened was you guys, all the rest of Conflux tried to come out, and then Kevin and Vinny ran them off, and then ran off Eric, and then like me and Red had you like surrounded in the ring, and I kind of forced you into accepting the challenge.
Yes.
Nobody who was, coming to save you.
Right. Yes, I remember that.
And then we went to December for our cage match. Do you want to do our cage match tonight, or you want to? I kind of wanted to watch it and then talk about it.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
In a while.
Yeah.
What do you remember about training during this point?
I don't know. It all kind of blends together, because sometimes we had after the shows, and then I was coming from other areas, so I know we were moving though a lot here. I don't know who we had. Remember, we had like a little bit of some people coming in and going out, and
I'm thinking at this point we definitely had elbow pads. Remember elbow pads?
Yes, I remember elbow pads.
I'm thinking we might have also had Kai by now, because
I couldn't remember when he came.
He was the outside of the cage referee during our cage match.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
I don't know why I'm doing Tibbs eyes. I'm trying to think. I think we all like Dorian, all the fun stuff, and like the real ridiculousness stuff started happening in 2012.
A little bit later,
I remember at this point in time is when I'm me personally, I'm starting to get very comfortable with you.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like I've got you. I don't mean to sound like I can't think of the word right now, but like I've got you figured out.
Yeah.
Like I know what you're about.
Mm-hmm.
I trust you.
Mm.
And I remember at practice, like leading up into this, like trying to work really, really, really hard because I didn't want you to be mad at me. And then I remembered when I came back from my thumb and we were going over all this stuff, I remember you being like, just be ready because we're going 25, we're going fast, and we're going hard. And
Right.
so I spent like 2 months preparing for this cage match, thinking that we're going 25, we're going fast, and we're going hard. And then the day we got there, you were like, all right, here's what we're doing. And it was like, oh, okay, we're going to have a wrestling match with 4 walls around us. Like, I could do this. Like, but I remember just not wanting to disappoint myself, disappoint you. And I remembered wanting to rub it in Johnny Five's face.
Right. Yes, I remember
Like,
that.
those were kind of like my motivating factors.
Right.
Because again, every time I tried to do something, that guy had no faith in the fact that I'd be able to do it, and that always pissed me off. But as far as training goes, yeah, we definitely had Kai. We had elbow pads. I wonder, did we have the Superstar Brothers yet?
I feel like they came a little later because weren't they fans, right? At first, didn't they come to shows?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they were like the Eric family or not, or sat near there.
Oh my God, the Eric family.
Yeah, remember
Yeah,
them?
they didn't have anything to do with the Eric family.
Okay. I don't think we had them until later. For some reason, I feel like the weather was warmer when we had them around. Because I remember when we had them under the ring for that birthday party show.
Yeah, when I called the spot, when I told them that they were going to do the demolition spot, and then I never shit canned the one of them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then yeah. So yeah, I think they came like the next year. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people came when 2012
Yes.
started, and then remember in 2012 we got derailed a few months by the hurricane.
Yes.
Which prolonged my New York State title reign handsomely. But yeah, like I was saying, I want to watch the actual cage match before we talk about it. Do you have a way to watch it, or am I gonna have to figure out a way to digitize this and then send it to you, and then we could talk about it next week?
I have the DVD somewhere. I know it's downstairs under the TV, so I'll check it out though.
All right, man. So then you wanna shut this down for the evening, or is there anything else you want to talk about here?
No, that covers that. Yeah, because the cage is the good part.
All right, good. I know we haven't been doing it lately, but have you watched any modern current wrestling?
No, I didn't watch Bash at Berlin because I don't know. There's nothing on there that made me like, I wonder what's gonna happen. You know, it was one of those where you kind of knew everything was gonna happen.
Birthday
Like,
party.
I figured Punk was gonna win. It didn't sound like they did anything with Seth after, right? Or during?
No. I will say I watched it yesterday. I will say that Cody and Kevin Owens had a good fight.
Okay.
But I'm tired of watching Cody hit 17 crossroads and not getting a pin.
I feel like Cody should have saved that multiple ones just on Roman because it should make it more special that way.
Right, but now it takes 3 to beat everybody.
Yeah, and
he can hit 12 single ones.
Right.
No good.
Yeah, but when he's doing the ones in a row, that should have just been a Roman thing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of tired out on that particular thing with Cody, but I mean, I don't know. They from the sound of it, it seems like Punk and Drew are kind of like rivaling him for main event status on shows.
Yeah.
To have a strap match is a big deal, and they've been doing this. So I'm wondering, are they going to do them three together at WrestleMania, or like how does Seth get back involved in this? Because I feel like Seth and Punk is the match everybody really wants to see,
Right.
but I don't know.
And all they got to do is get the title in it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, yeah, that and John Cena's year coming up, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that'll all kick off at the Rumble. Does he win the Rumble? I mean, I'm real curious how they handle this.
Yeah. I will say I did watch some of All In last weekend.
Oh yeah.
While I was drafting my fantasy football team, so I wasn't really paying much attention. But I will tell you this: Ricochet came down for that battle royal, and within 16 seconds of being in an AEW ring, he did 4 flips. 16 seconds, 4 flips, did not win the match.
Right. That's another one of those like fumbles of debuts. Like they don't know how to debut anybody, and then the next week it was him and Kyle Fletcher, like right to mid card, I mean, nothing special about him now. And he could have been Osprey like as far as like their build for him, but I don't know. I'm not even sure. I mean, I don't even know if that's a good way to describe it, but because I don't know if Osprey's really as over as they try to play it out to be. So I don't know. It's weird.
I think I find it funny how they use Kyle Fletcher as like their Sean Waltman.
Yeah.
Like, throw him out there with 1, 2, 3 kid. Let's see what he's got. You know what I mean? Right. It's always they did the same thing with Osprey. Every time they debut somebody, they always throw him out there with Kyle Fletcher right away. But I feel like they can't afford to fumble Ricochet, and they know that they can't afford to fumble Ricochet because he's going to be the one that they're going to use as their example. You know what I mean? Just like Swerve. Like, oh, we fumble all these guys, but look what we did with Ricochet. Like, if you fumble Ricochet after all the hoopla of bringing him in there and everybody going, if only Ricochet were free to be in AEW, like, if they fumble him, they have no choice but to look in the mirror and say, the person booking this does not deserve to hold a pencil.
Yeah, but I think Swerve got himself over more so than AEW got him over.
Yes.
They couldn't even capitalize on that on the right pay-per-view like they should have. And then they got hold of him as champion and then ruined him. Like they didn't do him any favors. I'm glad he supposedly, re-signed for a big contract, which is great. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm happy that these guys are all getting paid what they deserve. But the problem is if AEW was supposed to be, if AEW was supposed to be the alternative to WWE, but now WWE is doing the alternative work, what's the point of AEW now?
There is none.
Right. Like besides
it's just another place to work.
Besides a high budgeted MLW type thing. I mean, again, at least the guys are getting paid. And then they brought back Jamie Hayter like in a random match too.
On the pre-show.
Yeah, like she was one of their biggest stars. Like you just shit on her.
Yep.
You mean to tell me she couldn't run out and save somebody at least to bring her back? You know, it wasn't a debut, but
during the Britt Baker match.
Right. I mean, what you know, and then how do they not have buyer's remorse with what's her name? Mercedes. She's been a flop since day one, and she continues to prove that she's a flop. So what the fuck is happening over there? Like, I feel bad for a handful of guys, and then, you know, like your one shining light is Brian right now until he decides that he doesn't want to play wrestling no more with everybody.
Right.
Which is what you're doing. Like, I don't, what are they doing?
I don't know what they're doing, but Rick, I know what we're doing, and we are getting out of here.
Yeah.
So next week we'll do our cage match, and then the week after that, I guess we'll jump back into some Lucha Underground. We'll get through season 2, and then we'll jump back into some VPW. How does that sound to you?
Yeah.
All right, Motherfluxxers, this has been Podfluxxx, episode 68. We'll catch you next week. Rick, have a good one, bud.
Yep. Later.
Gimmick.